Hey everybody, this is a video overview of this knife, and this knife is the Gerber Sedulo. I am outside on a Sunday. If I sound a little different, it's because I'm pretty tired after getting the second of the 2 COVID vaccines. Because I'm so tired, I'm just gonna sit here and review knives. So this is the part of the Gerber Reserve line, which is a line of knives that includes this knife and the Terracraft, and it is designed. They are premium knives made with premium materials by Gerber here in the United States. And so this is their first folder, and I was sent this for review by Gerber itself. And so let's just assume, as Nick says, this is the best one ever. In a typical overview, I'm gonna go through and talk to you about what I like, what I don't like, and give you the specs and the price. So this knife retails for $105. It's part of a customization program at Gerber that lets you choose the handle scales and patterns that you can have laser marked onto the blade. This one is just a generic one with black FRN handles and a stone-washed blade. The blade steel, as you can see right here, is S30V. It is full flat ground, and it has a 3.5 inch blade and a 4.5 inch handle. Overall length is right about 8 inches. It weighs 3.6 ounces. And as you can see here, I'm gonna show you in a second. You can see, there you go. It's got full length steel liners. This thing is a chunk. You know, one of their early criticisms of the FRN handled Griptilians and mini Griptilians is they felt hollow. And while this sounds hollow, it does not feel hollow. And I think they did that mainly in response to those criticisms, because while I don't really care that it felt hollow because it made the knife light, this one feels more solid than those original generation Griptilians. This was made in the United States in Oregon by Gerber. So let's do some size comparisons. So as you can see, this is a really thick knife. It definitely fills out the hand. It's exactly the same thickness, maybe a little thicker at the sliding bar lock than a AA battery. And here it is on an American dollar. And as you can see, when open, it is significantly longer than an American dollar. It's a big, big knife. Let's see, what do I have on me today? I have on me the SOG Terminus XR, and as you can see, it is significantly bigger than the Terminus XR. Terminus XR is one of my favorite knives right now. It's just a great little carry knife. So let's talk about what we like and what we don't like. So the first thing is, I like the idea of the Gerber Reserve line. Gerber has always had the potential to make great knives. They just haven't really decided to do so in a while. 1980s, when I first started noticing knives, my grandfather had an ATS 34 bladed Gerber, and at the time it was just like this insanely great blade steel. In fact, ATS 34 is probably still a pretty good blade steel. I had a Clotsley Walker design in ATS 34. It was really good. The idea that the blade steel was an ultra premium blade steel just doesn't make sense nowadays with a Gerber knife. So this push towards making higher end enthusiast grade stuff really does well for people like us, because you know, this is the kind of stuff that we're most interested in. And so even though this is S30V, which is not the most premium steel in the world, it's a lot better than the 5, 7, and 8 CR that they have been using on a lot of Gerber knives. I also think that the heat treat is pretty good. I've been really impressed. I have both the Terracraft and the Sedulo, and they are really good, especially for S30V knives. And so I'm very grateful that Gerber has decided to go after the enthusiast market again, because they do have really good design chops, and that's something that I'll talk about in a second. But just the idea of a premium Gerber is pretty cool. Another thing that I really like is I really like the fact that this is a completely ambidextrous knife. The lock is ambidextrous, the thumb studs are ambidextrous, the pocket clip can be switched from side to side. It's a deep carry over the top pocket clip. It's a very good pocket clip. I like that pocket clip a lot. Everything about this knife can be used for lefties or righties, and if you're gonna make one folder in your premium line, it's probably best that you make it fully ambidextrous. It's a good idea. couple other things that I really like, just little touches, no exposed rear blade tang. And if you can see right there, the liners actually come up from inside the FRN and then emerge over the top of the FRN. And that's what gives you the jimping when you're holding the knife. That's a really clever idea. There are a lot of knives that do this. This is not unique to Gerber, but man, does it make this knife extra grippy. There's no jimping on the blade, but there is jimping right here, which really locks your hand in. I like that a lot, and that's just, again, a little subtle touch that Gerber's doing that makes it interesting. The threaded inserts here, these little brass inserts you can see, those are really clever. You know, they're visually appealing. I mean, you obviously don't want to call attention to the holes, but if you're gonna have holes, you may as well make them nice, and they did that there. The liner, or the lanyard hole is brilliant. As you can see, there's no hole here, but if you want to line, slip some hollowed out paracord through there, you can totally do that. So really, really nice collection of thoughtful touches. One last thing that I really like. This is a thick, stout blade. As you can see, it's considerably thicker than the blade on the knife I was carrying today, which is the SOG Terminus XR. But it does get down to a pretty thin edge, and it has a thick, or not thick, has a tall bevel, cutting bevel. So the cutting bevel is pretty substantial. All of that is really good because it gives you stoutness here, but still some pretty good slicing ability. The fact that it's a full flat grind really helps out. And another nice point, the thumb stud is not in the cutting path all that much. I mean, if you're cutting right here, you're gonna hit it. But anything else after that, you're good. So good grind, good blade shape. Overall, I really like this sort of knife. Obviously, if it was up to me, I'd always make the blade thinner, but given that they chose a thick stock, they did a good job with the grind, except for one thing, which I'm gonna get to in a second. So, let's talk about what we don't like. What we don't like is, first of all, this hander texture, while not great or offensive in any way, is kind of silly, and it's not a completely ambidextrous knife. If you see there, right underneath the pocket clip is a square, and that square allows the pocket clip to land without, you know, abrading your pocket when it's pulled out in and out of the pocket, because there's a smooth area on the pocket clip. There is no smooth area on the other side. So if you're lefty, that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. There are a couple of things that, you know, sort of scream out to me. First of all, let's see if we can get a good zoom in on that. Look how toothy and uneven that grind is. You can see right here, it's pretty thick. Like right there, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. And then you can kind of see that it swoops in up here, and then it gets wider out here. So like right here, it's pretty narrow. Right here is pretty thick. Right here, it's pretty tall. And right here is pretty tall. I'm not sure I like that. I think that that just indicates a little bit of laziness. You can see there's a little bit of wobble in the cutting bevel too. Now, the one thing I'll tell you is as you sharpen this, that'll go away. You know, the knife does come this way, but you can get rid of that pretty easily. In fact, I think I'm gonna probably do that. I'm gonna go on a work sharp and just take care of that. That's a little bit of sloppiness that I don't think is something you should see on a premium knife, especially a knife you claim is your premium knife. Interesting thing is, I did not find this sloppiness on the Terracraft, the fixed blade knife in the Gerber Reserve line. A couple other places where there's some sloppiness that I was like, ugh, that's not good. Right here. Now these are clearly tabs where they break off the handle scales from a larger piece of plastic. But just hit those up. I mean, come on. Like, that's not a difficult thing to do. I don't know why they did it, but it's aesthetically unpleasing. A couple other things. The plastic here is really sharp, and so over time you start to get a hot spot right there, or I get a hot spot right there. It is something that is sharp enough to catch on. If they just took a little bit of sandpaper and dulled that out, that would be nice. It would make a big difference. I like I said, I like the liner jimping, the liner poking up to make the jimping. That's nice. But there is a little bit of gapping here. And, you know, this is their premium knife, but it's still only $100. So, like, I'm not going to bang them too much. Like, you'd never see that on a Rayot or a Wii or a high-end Benchmade. So, you know, it's a little bit of get what you pay for. And recognizing that this is still a relatively inexpensive knife for an enthusiast grade knife, but it is a really expensive knife for a non-enthusiast knife. And I don't think people that are buying this, non-enthusiasts that are buying this, are going to have an issue with that gapping. The last thing that I would point out is this knife has a really striking similarity to the Benchmade Benchmade Griptilian. And while that's not a bad thing, and there's only sort of so many things you can do with a thumb stud, a sliding bar lock folder, some people are going to be uncomfortable with just how many similarities there are, and I don't really blame them, because, like, they could have done a million different things, and this is what they chose to do, and that's fine. And like I said, I don't have an issue, but I know that some people will. So that's my overview of the Gerber Sedulo, which is part of the Gerber Reserve line, and look for a written review coming very soon. And sorry I'm so tired.